If we go to today's Moodle page, all of the unit exercises we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks, if you click on our folder, will come from the same information. I'm giving you the same photographs, the same text. We're just going to change up how it's placed onto a grid. So when you download the grid exercise information, here it is. You'll open up a folder. We're going to be making things for the art department. I'm giving you information about MC's art department. So as far as the info, it's just a Word document. You've got your title, you've got a little bit of an overview, and we're talking about the graduate and undergraduate, and the contact information. So all of that will be in each of the exercises. As far as photographs go, I'm giving you a copy of our logo, vector version of it. I'm giving you folders that have pictures of students and students working, not necessarily from MC. I'm giving you photographs of artwork that can be used, and I'm also giving you photographs of faculty. Some of these are different sizes, some of these are maybe even different color modes. I'll have to look into those as well. But this is all of the information that you'll be using for each of the exercises. We're just going to change up the grid. Today we're going to learn about the modular grid. So if you want to look on the exercise page that I just handed out, I know front and back look kind of similar. Make sure you're on the side that says exercise 1. The first thing we need to do is to set up our grid, a modular grid to do this. So in InDesign, I'm going to make a new document. As far as the number of pages, we're going to be making 2 different posters and looking at 2 different modular grids. I'm going to set my page number to 2, and we're not doing a book, so I'm going to turn off facing pages. The size of it is going to be tabloid size, 11 by 17. Don't worry about columns. Margins, we're going to keep it 1/2 inch. And if you want to do some cropping and overset pictures, we'll give it 1/8 inch bleed on all sides. Everything good? We'll say OK to that. So here's our document. 2 pages, 1/2 inch margin, 1/8 inch bleed on this side. Now I've shown you before, if you want to change the number of columns on a page, you can always go to Layout, and there's Margins and Columns. If I've got Preview turned on, I can increase the number of columns that I'm working in. What we want to do is also give us some horizontal guidelines, not just vertical columns. So I'm not going to use this. I'm going to hit Cancel. Instead, go under Layout and choose Create Guides. Create Guides will give you this dialog box, and it does the same thing, but this time it's going to draw just regular guide rules for you by the number of rows and number of columns. I've got Preview turned on, and so for our first page, we need it to be 12 rows, and you can see as I increase it, it increases the number of rows evenly distributed on here. There's 12 by 8 columns. And you can see it automatically divides up the columns that are inside of here as well. Another thing to pay attention to is how wide each one of these columns are, based on the width of the page or the width of the margins. Right now, if you see my options, I've got it set to fit the guides between the margins of the page. Remember, I've got 1/2 inch on all the sides. If I fit the margins to the page, see how it adjusted my guidelines to fit? Now it fits the entire page evenly, and it's ignoring my outer margins. Sometimes you want to keep everything, you want to keep a nice margin around your border, and so what we're going to do is keep margins turned on so I can work within that white margin border from there. We'll say OK. Oh, also, as far as gutter is the amount of space that's in between. So if I needed to increase more or less gutter between each one, that's where I can do it. I believe on this one I want it to be 1/8 inch on each one, 0.125. So that'll bring that together. We'll say OK. Now I've got margins on this page, both vertical and horizontal, excuse me. On the second page, we're going to set up another one. This time it's going to be not square, but it's going to be a little bit more rectangular. So Layout, Create Guides, and this one's going to be 8 by 6. 5, 8, 5, 6. And for our gutter, we're going to keep these at 0. So in this case, it's just giving me a line and no spacing in between that particular area. We'll say OK to that. By the way, if you needed to adjust these margins, if you needed to go back and rechange them and restructure them, if you open up your Create Guides again, and I started to create new ones on top of here, you can see what it's going to do is it's going to make new guides on top of those guides. However, if I turn on Remove the Existing Guides, then it's going to erase away what I had previously and put new fresher ones on there. So be aware of that when you're resetting your guides and recreating those. We'll say cancel, move on from that. I've got both of my pages now set up. Now let's have fun. Let's start placing our text and placing our information inside of here. By the way, you can still click on these and move them, so be careful where you click. If you want to lock down your guides and make them so that you can't select them, under View, here's our grids and guides. Here's where you can lock your guides down. Now, no matter what I do, it's going to keep everything exactly the same. When you lay out a newspaper, what's the first thing I advise you to put down? What sets the tone for your entire design? Pictures?
No,
the title, the headlines, exactly. So let's open up this. Our headline is going to be Mississippi College Department of Art. And so all I'm going to do, let's see, we'll copy this, grab us a text box, and I'm just going to paste it into here. I've got a text box, I've got type on the page. Now let's have fun and start formatting it. And when I choose formatting, I want to choose it so that it fits within my guidelines and fits within my grid that I just created. So let's highlight it. Let's see, last time I chose, we'll do BBoss. No, let's not do BBoss, I did that last time. Let's do something else. That'll work, okay. Change up the sizes of it. What you may want to do is put your text box to line up to the grid itself. Then I can change the size. Now I know I'm working within my grid. I can make my font slightly larger to fill in that area. If I was to choose spacing between the two, let's see if I can move this up. Maybe I'll put Mississippi College right there on that baseline, and I can adjust the leading till the top of that one reaches that baseline. So I'm using my grid now as the structure for how to place it. And we can make it bigger. Let's make it fill up a lot more. So there's that. Readjust my leading. So now you see how I'm using my grid. I've got my baseline. I've got the width of it fits inside of there. The height of everything fits inside of both of those as well. So there's a example of headline. Let's add my body copy. I'm going to put everything in its own text box. Copy that. Paste it in. Copy this. Paste it in and copy this. Paste it in. Contact info. All of this needs to fit within my structure. Okay, so this is my overview. When I start choosing where to place things, I'm simply going to use my grid structure to have things aligned to it. There is an alignment that works with it. If I wanted to, I can format my text. Maybe if I wanted to really emphasize the grid structure, make it justified. Reset my bounding box. If I know how much space I want, maybe I can place this right here. Let's see what works out. Maybe I can put graduate right here. I'm just aligning everything to my grid to be able to fit. So there's that. There's a solution. Since I know this is going to be a subhead, let's make it bigger. What did I use? Bernard. Make that larger. Maybe make my text slightly smaller. Hey, what's a quick way if I wanted to format everything to be exactly the same? Make a style. I got my paragraph styles open. I've already formatted this one, so I got it highlighted. When I make a new paragraph style, we'll call this subhead. Now all I've got to do is select that one, click on subhead, it's automatically formatted. If I wanted this to be one, click on it, call it body copy. Now all I have to do is select my style, clicking once, and it automatically formats that to fit. Everything stays in there really good. Let's change that to our body copy to be justified. No, I left justified. We'll say okay. So now they're all automatically justified from there. Contact info, left you out. There's my subhead. There's my body copy. Once I get all of my information onto my board, it's simply a matter of playing around now with where I can place it and how I can space things out. So I know it's going to take up this amount of space. Well, does it have to be those two columns? I can do something like this. I can move things up and stay within this grid structure. You can see how much room everything is taking up. And all I've got to do is play around with the alignment of it. You don't always have to stay exactly within the grid. Notice how now I'm straddling two different sides of it. By placing these both together, it's kind of alluding that they're similar. They got similar information. Once you don't see the grid, it still fits the structure. I can still place things within it. It still works, I guess you could say. But now everything fits nice and snug. Now let's place our pictures inside of here. For this first exercise, page 1, I only want you to use photographs from the students and from the artwork. So students and artwork will go on page 1. The second page will only use faculty. So as far as placing pictures, now all I've got to do is make a bunch of picture boxes. Let's see what I can get into and see how they work with each other. So I'll do that. Maybe I'll make a big one right there. Maybe I'll divide these two up into two different styles. Make sure it fits your column. And maybe I'll have one down here. So take up all of that. Maybe I'll have another one over here. All I'm doing is kind of filling in the rest of the area. How many boxes do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's put another one up here on this side. 7. Let's put some pictures inside of each of those boxes. File and place. I want it under artwork. Let's see, I need 2 or 3 horizontal pictures. There's a horizontal, there's a horizontal, and there's a horizontal. So I'm going to select all 3 of those. When I say open, notice how they're following my cursor now. All I've got to do is click exactly where I want to place them, and they'll be placed inside of there. What's wrong with the pictures, though? Not sized right, so let's resize them and start placing them into here. At this point, all I'm doing is playing around with placement of things. Later on, I can readjust the size, readjust the cropping of it, put some other stuff in there. File and place. Start playing around with 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll just go ahead and select all of these, choose to automatically fit them. And now I've got this particular layout. Not bad. You can see the grid structure. Things are starting to come together. Now I can start playing and moving things around. Maybe I want to make my text a little bit bigger so I can fill in some of the better spacing with it. So instead of 10 points, see if I can get away with 13 points. Of course, if I do that, I need to space things out. Fill that up, so that's not going to work. So I need to readjust this person. We'll bring her down. Maybe that doesn't look good. Maybe I need to move things over. And I know I can place it there. I know it works because I'm staying within my grid. Taking all of the guesswork out of my design. I know what area needs to be filled in and where to place things. Contact, place it right here. Have it lined up with everything else. All I'm doing is playing. From here, I need to add color to here. How do I choose my colors? Swatches. More specifically, how do I know what swatches to pick? Okay, you're getting closer. What am I looking for? Use colors that are in the pictures. Is there any particular color that's very pervasive? I see good browns and reds. I could pull in those. I see greens. I see blues. Any one of those can become a color swatch. Let's pull in some of the browns. Remember to look for lights, mediums, and darks. So here's a dark brown. We'll add that one. So okay, here's maybe a medium kind of orange, and we'll say this light yellow on his skin. Add. So now I've got 3 different color swatches, light, medium, and dark, that I can go back in and start adding to my text. If I wanted my subheads to all have text color, maybe all of those will have the medium type ones. Maybe all of my background, let's add just a large box. We'll make that one very, very light. We'll send it to the back. If it decides to work. There we go. Now I've got my layout. Or at least I've got a good start to it. In less than 30 minutes, I was able to lay out an entire page with any given text and any given images. The reason why is because I set up a grid structure to place things within it. Takes the guesswork out of it, makes things very, very easy. If I need to move things around, I move it around based on the grid structure. That doesn't necessarily work because it's not necessarily lined up with anything. That does. Or I can place things in other different places. I've got one dominant text. Do I really have a dominant photograph? Maybe that's something I can work on. I don't really have a good dominant photograph, so I can move things around to make one of them much, much larger. Let's see. If I wanted this one to be my dominant photograph, we'll make it really big. Of course, it's going to cut into my text, so maybe I need to move my text around. It'll fill up about that much. Maybe I've got undergraduate degrees on one side, graduate degrees on another side. That's looking better. Got some open space over here. All I've got to do now is place my photos accordingly. Oh well, now I'm just having fun trying to fill in stuff. You get the idea, right? I'm working within that grid. For the second exercise, this time you're doing the same thing, same text information. You want all of this on the second page, but instead of using the artwork and the students, you're going to use just the faculty photos to lay that out as well. Any questions on the exercises? First thing you need to do is to set up your grid structure for 2 pages and then start placing things in there. Here's how I want you to save it. Once you got everything done, last part of it. I do want you to save a PDF. So PDF presets, we'll save it as the smallest file size. And I'm just going to call it modular layout to the desktop. Here's the second thing I want you to do. I want you to package your design. If you don't remember about packaging, this is where you save everything that you're working with. All of the photos, all of the links, all of the fonts. Under File, choose Package. It's going to say, hey, here's our summary. Here's what we're going to get. We're going to get all of the package, all the fonts, all of the images, any colors that you use. So when I say Package, we'll save it up. We'll call it Modular. I'm going to choose my desktop. And it's going to place everything inside of a folder. So you need to tell it where to save this folder to and what you're going to be saving with it. So when I choose Package, it will give you a font warning saying, are you sure you want to do this? We'll say OK. Now, somewhere on my desktop, I think this one right here, inside of it, I've got all of my linked photos, I've got all of my fonts that I've used, and I've got the actual document that I'm working on. For those of you that work at home or you've got InDesign on your own computer, packaging is your answer for pulling stuff from your computer to another one. I do want you to compress this folder. All I did was Control-click on it, choose Compress. and you're going to upload the zip file of your package and the PDF that goes along with it to Moodle. I know I did that last part really, really quick. Everybody get lost? Okay. I'll turn everything back over to you and let y'all get started.